I think most of us can agree at first, Subnautica feels like a calm dive into an alien ocean. And then, well, reality hits hard. So, here's 15 things I really wish I knew about Subnautica before playing. So number 1, so if you're thinking of going to a large wreck or a big cave and you've only got a standard tank or a high capacity tank, then oxygen is going to be the biggest killer for you, and usually it never ends well. So that's why I always recommend craft 2 oxygen tanks. It's something that a lot of people actually overlook. So if you're deep in a wreck and that oxygen is running low, what you need to do, open the inventory, swap out the tank. Just make sure that when you do craft it, that you actually refill it with the oxygen, because it actually starts empty. Number 2, if you've ever tried finding stalker teeth, you know the pain. The drop rate is, and once they do drop, they tend to get lost and camouflaged in the ocean floor. And to make matters worse, you need 9 of them to craft everything you can possibly craft within the game. For most players, the best way to get them later on is to build that scanner room and build that scanner HUD chip. However, there is actually an alternative route, and this is for early gamers as well. All you need to do is craft yourself a grab trap, place it near a stalker or 2, and then load it with, say, 4 or 5 pieces of metal salvage. Stalkers will come over, bite the metal salvage and drop the tooth. However, sometimes the grab trap actually locks the stalker in place. So it becomes essentially a stalker tooth farm, a really effective, efficient way of getting lots of stalker teeth. Number 3, there's one resource in Subnautica that gets massively overlooked, and that's a giant coral tube. From this you'll get the coral tube samples. Now you'll find these giant coral tubes in most biomes, particularly in the safe shallows. So the beauty of these is that if you hit them, they'll give the coral tube samples. However, it's infinite, you don't run out, it'll keep it giving you and giving you. So if your base with a bioreactor is close to these coral tubes, then you've got essentially free fuel with minimal fuss. Each coral tube sample will give you 70 energy. Number 4, so if you're constantly running out of water, stop chasing bladderfish and do this instead. All you'll need to do is find that table coral and get as many samples as you want. Combine that with salt, which you'll find very easily at the grassy plateaus, which is just outside the kelp forest. Mix them together and you've got bleach. After that, convert the bleach into disinfected water. The beauty of this is that you'll actually get 2 bottles per 1 bleach. Each bottle will give you 30 H2O, as opposed to the bladderfish method, which will give you 1 bottle and it only has 20 H2O in it. It's a no-brainer. Number 5, if you're exploring and you come across a biome or area that you've never seen before, and you spot movement in the dark, or perhaps you hear that bone-chilling reaper over in the distance, kill your lights immediately and assess the situation. That's because bone sharks, crab squids and reapers, they're all attracted to light. So basically, if you've got your light on your sea glide, sea moth, prawn suit, you're standing out like a high-vis on a stealth mission, trust me. The crab squid, it can be lethal. If it sees lights, it's going to release an EMP, disable the sea moth or any other equipment. So keeping sometimes in the dark and quiet is your best option. Number 6, if you want your bioreactor running non-stop, then honestly, grab yourself an Oculus. The best fuel in the entire game by far. And to find them, there are 2 locations, but your main one really is the Jelly Shrooms Cave. Now it is quite dangerous, it's 200 plus meters deep and it is jam-packed full of crab snakes. Honestly though, it is so worth it because each Oculus, it'll give you 630 points of energy in the bioreactor. That's like double what a people would give you. But here's the best part, if you catch 2 of them, craft yourself an alien containment unit, put 2 of them in there and they will breed over time. And you'll have an endless supply of Oculus. Unlimited energy, trust me. Number 7, power cell chargers. Yeah, painful. So if you're tired of waiting almost 7 minutes for your power cells to recharge in a power cell charger, there is actually a quicker alternative method. All you need to do for this one is get your seam off and stack up 4 solar charger modules. Pack it up, say, within 100 meters of the surface, and then boom, you're effectively charging your power cell at an increased rate, and it's going to charge it within around about a minute or just over. That's almost 7 times faster than a power cell charger. If you need to, you can just charge one after another and then equip some in your Cyclops or your prawn suit or your Seamoth. Okay, now on to number 8. So if you're dying from hunger and you're in some deep dark biome somewhere and you really don't feel like chasing fish or around the ocean, there is one method that actually cooks dinner for you right then and there. So if you're in your Seamoth and you've got that perimeter defense system that most people have, then you can actually fry fish instantly. Just hold down that button for 30 seconds and then boom, any fish in the area, they're fried. The only downside is that you'll probably cook more fish than you actually need. They do spoil over time. And secondly, that electrical pulse that you've just done, well, it'll zap 15% of your energy. Number 9. If you're about to venture into that deep biome, cave or wreck by swimming or sea glide, it's quite common to lose a sense of direction. And then the sudden realization that oxygen is really low is going to hit you. That's why it's always a good idea to keep a couple of bladderfish in your inventory. Eating just one of them can give you up to 15 seconds of oxygen, and it can be the difference between making it back to that Seamoth or surface or not. So don't bother turning them into water, just use them on the spot for that oxygen boost when you need to. On to number 10. Have you ever wondered what is a maximum points you can get on the food meter? And how long is it going to last? Well, 100 points lasts for 42 minutes. Sometimes when you eat food it maxes out at 100 and then sometimes it goes over that to a random number. Well, you can actually push up that food meter all the way up to 174 points, and that equates to 1 hour 12 minutes approximately, and it's all about timing. So the first part of the trick is stockpiling. So let's look at nutrient blocks. They're the highest value food you can get in Subnautica. Now, don't eat them just as and when you go hungry. Try to stockpile. And here's the second part. So when your food meter gets to around about 99 or as close to as possible, that's when you eat the nutrient block. That's going to push your food meter all the way up to 174 points. Over an hour of diving without going hungry. Number 11. If you're in early game and you're struggling to find copper and you need batteries, there is actually an alternative method. Normally to craft a battery you need 2 acid mushrooms, 1 copper. However, copper can be a little bit painful sometimes to get. Instead, you can actually build a repair tool, which will actually include the battery as part of the recipe. It'll only cost you 1 titanium, 1 cave sulfur, and 1 silicon rubber. No copper required. Once you've crafted the repair tool, just unload the battery and you've got a battery fully charged, ready to go. On to number 12. So there's nothing more annoying than rotten food, whether it be fish or fruit, and you just chuck it away because eating it will damage you. However, there is one particular food type or fruit that you don't need to do that with, and that's a marble melon. So if you've got decomposing marble melon, just plonk it in that indoor grow bed, and then within a second, wah, you've got a refreshed, replenished marble melon. And that marble melon will give you 12 food and 14 water, so it is well worth investing in. Number 13. Ultra glide fins are actually considered, probably by most people, the top tier upgrade for a fin. However, if you're using a sea glide most of the time, then they're actually kind of pointless. That's because fins, they don't actually affect the speed of the sea glide at all. The sea glide is always locked on to around about 11 meters per second, give or take. So instead of crafting ultra glide fins, craft swim charge fins instead. And the obvious reason, they will recharge your battery in the sea glide as you're moving. They actually recharge your completely dead battery that's put in your sea glide as well. And the bonus ball, since the sea glide power consumption is actually lower than the charge rate, you'll end up with a battery that lasts infinitely. And if you're wondering how long it takes to charge a dead battery, well, it's 20 minutes as long as you're moving in the sea glide. Number 14. There may be times where you need to pass through Reaper territory, and the safest way to do so is creature decoy. And the great thing, you actually don't need a Cyclops to deploy them. You can actually launch them by hand. What I recommend you do is just craft 2 or 3 creature decoys, and if that Reaper gets too close, just release them into the ocean. Each decoy lasts approximately a minute to 2 minutes, depending. so it's usually enough time for you to explore and at least get back to your Seamoth. And just so you know, the propulsion cannon is the only way of picking back up a released creature decoy. You can also fire it towards a Reaper and keep it away from you if you need to. It's a very simple, effective way if you want to explore areas around the back of the Aurora, dunes, or the mountains. And finally, on to number 15. So here's a strange but surprisingly effective survival trick. You can actually use peepers as a meat shield against a Reaper Leviathan. So if you're one of those that are actually considering going out to those Reaper infested waters, take 8 to 12 peepers with you, put them in the inventory and into the hotbar. And once you get to that Reaper zone and a Reaper locks onto you and comes for you, just hold out that peeper and it will take it from you. Instead of attacking you, it will eat the peeper, or it will actually eat 2 peepers usually for every attack. It's honestly not a guaranteed defense, and there are other methods like the stasis rifle, but it is one early game route that you can actually take just in case you're getting out your Seamoth and you're venturing out in the Sea Glide. It's weird, but in Subnautica the best armour is a handful of fish.